That big boss, less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another Couch Conversation where we're discussing the Sony State of the Union.
Yep.
And we have a couple topics to go over in this section. The three main things we'd like to discuss is the 4.5 PlayStation, the mobile play stuff that's been kind of spouted a little bit by those guys lately, and also some of the cross-platform stuff and kind of what that looks like from Sony's end.
Yeah.
So I guess let's start with the big one.
The most controversial one, I think.
Yeah, which is the 4.5. For those of you that don't know, Keegan, explain what that is.
So, PlayStation 4.5 it's a rumor. Nothing's been officially announced or anything like that at this point. A lot of this stuff is speculation, but...
There's a lot of rumors.
Yes.
Like, there's a lot.
It's looking more and more real every day. But basically what it is a PlayStation, what it sounds like, 4.5, 4.5. It's going to have an upgraded graphics processor in it and an upgraded processor in it to be able to run 4K video. That's the big thing that everybody's been hearing. I'm sure it'll probably have something to do with the VR when that comes out, be able to not have a separate box for VR. Sure. But the big one is 4K. People in the press called it PS4K.
I just don't know why they didn't, like, that needs to be its actual name. It makes so much more sense than 4.5.
Yeah.
PS4K.
Because I think they said that it wouldn't have been as much of a backlash, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the way... So, like, we kind of talked about it in the Microsoft one where, you know, they kind of, you know, Phil Spencer was up there and he announced everything and he was like, hey guys, this is kind of like what we're wanting to do as a company. Which, like, that's cool. Like, as much as we rag on Phil Spencer, like, that's, I think, how a company should announce a new product. Sony's, it was just kind of like this back alley drug deal where, like, they were all of a sudden, like, people were on the floor and they were like, hey Tom.
It was at the GDC, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think?
it was like, hey Tom, you hear about that new PlayStation that can run 4K? I was like, Keegan,
Some of that good shit.
did you hear about that 4K PS4?
And it kept going.
And then it kept on going from there. And then Sony was like, whoops. Yeah, I guess we were talking about something like that. And it just seems like the shittiest of ways to, like, announce something. That is kind of a big deal. Like, we talked about it again, like, with the Microsoft thing, where it's like, console gamers don't usually go to something for iterative consoles. Like, they want to wait several years.
Buy the box, keep it for however many years.
Because I don't have $1 jillion to upgrade my PC, which is why I do a console.
That's I think the big issue they have right now, there's two things I think is going to happen with this. One, it sucks because I feel like this is a move like Microsoft did at the launch of the Xbox, where we're kind of like alienating gamers. Yeah. And the big thing is, are you trying... Is this machine for people trying to want to upgrade? Like, the hardcore gamers, I don't think, obviously, there's always going to be that niche that's going to buy the newest thing just because they can. But I don't consider myself a super hardcore gamer. I play a lot of games, yes, but I'm not that guy that's going to buy the newest console right when it comes out. I waited a year or 2 years before I got the PS4.
Yeah. I am a hardcore gamer, and I buy the games that are coming out, so I don't have the money to spend on the console, because what the fuck game is going to come out running 4K? Games can barely run 1080p 30 frames a second on this console. Like, what are they expecting it to run on? Like 4K 10 frames a second?
Like some of that, though, is videos as well, like being like how the PS3 had the Blu-ray player built in.
Sure.
And it's kind of like, you know, since 4K TVs are becoming more and more prominent, it allows you.
You would think they would have planned that, because it's not like 4K TV kind of snuck up on them. Yeah. You would think they would have planned that ahead, because they've obviously planned ahead with Blu-ray with the PS3, knowing, well, betting, because they didn't know at that point that was going to become a thing. And I feel like 4K even now, when they launched the PS4, was even more of a thing than
what really
Blu-rays
upsets
were.
me is that I hope that it doesn't freeze people out. So, like, if they want to release it as like a side-by-side thing, and if you get this console, then your graphics are better. Cool, go ahead, do that. I don't give a shit. But if they do it in a case that, this game will only run on PlayStation 4K, then that's going to upset me a little bit, because then that feels like you were duped into buying something that wasn't complete, and that now you're being forced to figure out how to proceed from there, unless they come on with some kind of like trade in your old one and get the 4K upgrade for like $50 or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If there's something like that, then maybe that would make it less shitty.
I mean, that's still an effort. I mean, for somebody...
Yeah, but it's more acceptable as a solution.
Yeah, but for like us, I mean, we obviously run a YouTube channel. Getting to ship our console off somewhere, having to wait for a new one, like,
isn't conducive to our
for
livelihood.
what we do. And I'm sure a lot of people that play games every day don't want to wait. When I shipped off my Xbox for Red Ring of Death, it was agonizing. I had to wait 5 weeks to get that thing back.
I don't want to not play their Dark Souls for like a day. Like I couldn't even imagine like several
Well,
days.
hopefully they allow some stores to do it, like actually.
I'm assuming
at
something like
location.
GameStop.
Like you could go to Target or
potentially
GameStop
will.
or something and do it there. But it's I feel hesitant berating them too much over this because for one thing, it technically doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
For two, we don't know the details. We don't know what the pricing looks like or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could drop the PS4 by like $100, $150,
Sure.
and then put this out at the price that the PS4 is at now, which would be awesome for other
People trying to get in.
Yeah, for people trying to get in on that ladder.
But do you think
for
that
us it's a little shitty?
Do you think that outweighs though the people who would potentially upgrade? There's 40 million units already out of PS4s. Like, does
well, that's another
getting
question
the
as
people-
well. Isn't it a little bit modifiable already? Can't they make it so you can maybe buy the upgrade, like buy the GPU?
Maybe, I mean, the
It'd be
GPU
tricky.
isn't necessarily upgradable. The hard drive is, but I don't
Yeah.
know if
how it's all put together?
the other sides of everything is actually there. I just think it's a shady thing. Like, I just wish that they would have. I think they could have cut out a lot of this. Like, I wonder what's going on. Had
If
they
they
actually
just
just
did-
announced things
Yeah.
as opposed to being like very hush hush and
And
very like coy about it.
I think the other thing that makes this more believable, and like I said, as the days gone on, it's become more believable, is potentially packaging with VR and having that processor to run the VR. Because the PSVR has its own box you got to plug into it, and that's what makes me, when I first heard it, makes me concerned that it's real because, like we said, we all have one. It sucks. But it also makes it more believable because then you would have this single standalone box that could run everything and not have to have a separate box with it. So,
That's
so
fair.
here's a question for you guys. I know we're all kind of like getting on it, but what would make you upgrade to it? What feature, if it had it, would make you upgrade?
Definitely the GPU 4K thing is not enough. Like that's not it. I think the only thing that would make me upgrade to it is sadly the one thing I said I didn't want it to do, which is if it froze me out of games. Like if it got to the point where a new game came out and I couldn't play it because I didn't have that console, that might force me to do it. It would force my hand and it would piss me off, but I would probably do it because I've been an avid gamer.
I think if that
since a
happens,
child.
I think a lot of people jump back to Microsoft.
Yeah. If they upgraded a processor and allowed more cores to actually be utilized to allow games to run better, I would upgrade to a PS4K.
Did you guys see the spec leaks comparing them? It's really not that much more.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
That's what scares me. Because right now the PlayStation has like 1.7 gigahertz, it's 2.1, and then the GPU was marginally faster.
Yeah, and so it's not going to
That's
necessarily be
not
able to
worth it.
run like anything.
That's not worth the backlash that Sony is going to get from releasing it to do an incremental update to it. This is not a MacBook. This is not a PC. This is something that is supposed to stand the test of time and live in your house for 5 to 10 years before you even have to think about getting an upgrade.
New one.
So it's a little upsetting, but again, I find it hard to berate them too badly just because we don't actually know the facts yet. It could be entirely bullshit.
Yep.
We don't know.
I'm hoping it is.
Something that's not bullshit though is the mobile.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. So
That's something they announced.
Yeah. How are you feeling about that stuff?
The mobile stuff, I'm not necessarily super like. I mean, I'm whatever about it. I think the biggest thing that I'm interested in with what they're doing with like the allowing to play on other platforms is the Mac remote play. Right,
Mac remote play has been
kind of cool.
Yeah.
I've not had any issues with it either. I was on Wi-Fi and I hardwired just to test the two out and see how well it worked. And Wi-Fi, yes, there's a little bit of lag, but not enough that it interfered with the game.
The only thing I ever wanted to be able to do was play upstairs while while I was hanging out upstairs because I don't have the PS4 up there, and I've never been able to do that. I bought the PS TV. That does not work. It's a hot mess. So what I did was, and this is kind of a pro tip for those of you watching. I have managed to run the MacBook, AirPlay it to Apple TV, and then get the full screen PS4 experience going on my TV upstairs just from AirPlaying what's on the Mac while I'm there to Apple TV. And that is also without lag.
Yeah.
So
you have a lot of things going on there.
Yeah, I know. It was like I felt like a technology wizard. But I was playing the Doom beta when that came out, or open
which is
beta.
the game you need to not have lag on.
Exactly, and that was the test of it. Was hey, can I play Doom without getting my ass? I got my ass handed to me, but not because of lag, because I was shitty. And yeah, I could totally do that. So that's been huge. But I really like their mobile thing, but mostly because I think Sony has a lot of unique characters that would do well in a mobile environment. Like
Crash Bandicoot would be great.
Yes.
yeah, Crash Bandicoot I think is the one
If
that
they-
everyone wants.
If they go
Uh,
remake old franchises like PS1, PS2 franchises, I think it would sell really well.
Well, here's the thing. Nintendo obviously also went into the mobile space, and they said, rather than giving people what they actually want,
Give us
all of the
Miitomo.
old ports, they were like, we're going to make new games that are shady and weird. But Sony has not said
What they're
we're
doing.
only going to do new stuff. So potentially you could see entire back catalogs of famous Sony titles showing up on, iPad or iPhone or Android or whatever. Which is exciting, I think, to have those PS2 classics and stuff that you could get to. And those things can run them at this point.
Definitely.
So that's exciting to me that they could re-release like the Crash Bandicoot trilogy on iPad. And
I'd
it's
pick up an
perfect.
iPad Pro if I had the ability to play a lot of those older things.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So my thoughts on it are, as you guys know, I didn't grow up with the PlayStation. The only time I ever played a PlayStation game was when at the Sheridan they had this little weird monster controller that it played like at multiple. I'm sure it's an emulator.
Yeah, it's an emulator. Yeah.
But I played Crash Bandicoot on that all the time. So I'd love to go back and kind of relive the back catalog on mobile because I don't.
Spyro would be great.
Oh, I played a lot of Spyro with
Yeah.
my friend's house.
Well, I just
but-
think a lot of those games, like, because Crash Bandicoot, if you think about it, it's not really an open world game. It is you're running forward and backward. Like, it was a 3-dimensional game, but, like,
original
and I
Temple
feel like
yeah.
it would be anything that's level based now is good for mobile versus because yes, on a console like I'm currently playing Ratchet and Clank and I love Ratchet and Clank, but on a console a lot of the times I like to have a bigger game that I'm playing versus the old school Crash Bandicoots and all that. Since it's level based, it'd be easier to play 1 or 2 levels on, get done, get your fill, go to the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sitting down for an hour playing this. I'm on the bus or whatever it is.
Or on your
Playing it.
hour lunch or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it may be.
And we know that Sony tried to do a little bit of this before with the Xperia phone. They had like a lot of their titles that were playable on that. But, I mean, frankly, the Xperia phone didn't do as well as I think they predicted it was going to
Not at
do.
all.
And so I think it's better to leave it to the companies that are doing really well in that space, Google, Apple, etc.
I still want to see a lot more second screen experiences. Obviously, the PlayStation app allows you to do second screen, not utilized at all. But I love the Destiny app because I can manage my inventory on the go. And even if it was something where I could gain credits while doing so, playing a lot of the Division. If I could gain credits inside the Division from playing a mobile game, that would be
There
cool.
has
And then
been
transfer to
games
the
that do
PS4.
that. Far Cry
Battlefront does it too.
4 did that.
Yeah.
And it actually had this cool little arena fighting game that would earn you like loot for the real game, and you'd find it when you went back into that kind of thing. Is actually really useful. I like.
Because I think if they make like a mini game out of it, and you're like, hey, if you do these like Lara Croft Go, I'll use that as an example. If you beat Tomb 1, you get this in your PS4 game or your 360 game, whatever it may be. But there's also got to be enough that it can stand on its own. If you don't have those, that's the fine line they got to walk. Because we're lucky enough, we all have PS4s, but you have to think about it. Sony's for mobile. There's way more mobile units out there, and how are they going to market it to people who don't have PS4s?
Yeah.
So let's look at cross-platform from the Sony side of things. Anyone have any words they want to speak on that specifically?
I mean, not particularly. I think we talked about it a little bit on the Microsoft one where it's like, I mean...
It's been happening for a little while.
It's ultimately like... So there's a lot of stipulations that go into everything. And I remember like reading an interview with the Rocket League developers, how they were like, we wanted to do it, but Microsoft was the one who kind of barred us from doing anything like that. So like the way that Microsoft announced it was like, we're really interested in doing it. And it was kind of just like, balls in your court, Sony. And Sony's like, guys, like... We've been down to cloud for a while. Like, it's just been, figuring out all the other stuff.
It's too closed system. Because the hardest part, I think, from an engineering standpoint, is PC, because a lot of the games are cross-platform with just PC. So Xbox games cross-platform, PS4 games are cross-platform with PC, because PC is an open system. Microsoft and Sony, with PlayStation and Xbox, are both closed systems. I don't know the technology behind them. I don't want to act like I do, but I feel like it could be a little trickier to get them to communicate.
Sure.
And then the other thing you have to worry about is chat in game.
I was just happy that it's a possibility,
Yes.
to be honest. Because if you remember growing up, like, I mean, Keegan, you might not remember this, you may remember some of it, but, every console generation has had their war. And Genesis versus SNES was the
Yes,
big one.
was the big one.
Obviously, they kicked a lot of that stuff off.
360 versus PS3. I mean,
Mhm.
because the PS2 was
And
so
it
well,
started out with mascots fighting, and then it ended up being like the whole
Yeah.
console fighting.
which I don't.
But it's
like.
something that's been bred into the culture of gaming since the dawn of time.
Mhm.
And it's really nice to see, we talked a little bit earlier about how Sony is opening up a little bit more, allowing like remote play from a Mac and things like that. And that stuff is exciting. It's almost like the companies are now coming to a point where they truly do want the best experience for everyone playing, and there's something to be said for, playing, like, let's say a Call of Duty or something, and you could bring a little bit of that rivalry
Mhm.
into the game, but still have fun playing the game with more players.
And I think the advantage to both players and developers is you have a bigger pool to pull from. The worst thing for an online game is going in and waiting, and I've had this happen to Battlefront before, especially because I got the season pass, so I get it 2 weeks early. I can never play a match in that 2 weeks because there's not enough people playing the game. There's a lot of people playing it, but I can't matchmake with them for whatever reason. And I heard it's even worse on Xbox because Xbox doesn't have as many people playing that game.
Yeah.
But nothing's worse than getting excited, going into a game, and it's like, you're 2 of 20. And you're like, oh, cool, I got to wait until 18 people show up. And
Yeah.
from a gamer standpoint, it's great because you have the bigger pool of people. From a developer standpoint, it's great because people are more likely to play your game. So if my friend has an Xbox, I buy a game on PlayStation 4, we can now play together, and the developer's going to sell 2 versions of that game versus, well, I can't play with my friend,
one of the
so I'm going to
biggest
sell
thing
one.
is breaking the barriers of, well, I have to get the console my friends are getting because I want to.
That's why I got a PS4.
But also,
I mean, there's other reasons, but
also what I really kind of like about the idea of breaking it between Xbox and PS4 specifically is I had a point and now it's completely obliterated from my head while I'm talking about it. I'm sorry. Yeah, we talked about like the talking across things as well, and having like, oh yeah,
that'll be.
I got it.
Okay.
So you have a lot of gamers that play a game, and then the game becomes older and older, and then at some point the servers start slowing down a little bit.
Yep.
There's plenty of games that people pick up secondhand, and then they have online elements to them, and you log in and you're like, well, shit,
Can't use it.
It's past its prime.
Can't play
There's
NASCAR
like
06 Total Team
maybe
Control
one or two
online
people
anymore.
showing up. But if you have multiple consoles, then you're more likely to maintain a server base for longer.
Because you have a bigger player pool.
Yeah, so
still
that's
going.
kind of one thing I thought was interesting about it, that maybe you're going to have more life bred into these old games just because you have a bigger pool of people.
And games will hang around longer in general. I mean, I had that thought the other day of like, I still play Mario 1, 2, and 3 all the time because I love them. But I'm playing the Division now, and I'm like, once Ubisoft shuts down those servers, that game is gone.
It'll be a while.
I know, but I'm just saying, like,
They just shut down some PS2 servers.
I know,
yeah,
but at some point, I can't go back and play that game if I wanted to.
Sure.
So
And that's-
then
and
it's
that's-
also the point.
That's almost a whole other conversation,
Yeah.
talking about a largely online based versus single player based. But
Yeah.
But I think
yeah,
the cross-platform for gamers as a whole is a great thing. I think we're still probably a few years away from it because
Oh yeah.
Microsoft announced it's only indie developers first, and I understand why they want to do that. Partially because big budget people don't want to probably put the money into it to figure it out, and once somebody smaller figures it out, it's like, oh, we'll take you and do this. We'll buy in, do it for us.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's good for all gamers, and I firmly believe, I don't know if it's going to be a one console platform at some point, but I firmly believe that at some point, if you buy, it doesn't matter if you buy a game on Steam, if you buy it on PS4, if you buy it on or PlayStation or Xbox, you will be able to play with everybody. And
I hope so. That's a very.
as long as you have the option that you
Right
can choose
vision.
not to play with one of them now.
Do you think
From a
that
competitive standpoint.
there's going to be any mention of this sort of thing during E3 this year?
Yeah.
I think Microsoft will, because they've been pushing the cross between Windows and they had their spring event where it was big between Windows and Xbox, and I think they'll bring it back up because, again, Microsoft's behind, so they got to do whatever they can to get the fans back on their side, the gamers back on their side, and this is a big deal if it does happen.
Yeah.
So I think they will. I think Sony's going to hopefully be more conservative with their route. I think Sony will just kind of do what they've done and say, hey, here's awesome games. Hopefully we see Last Guardian, the games we're
If
excited
they
for.
bring out the 4.5 at E3, do you think they've insta-lost E3?
If they start with it, yes. I think it's one of those things. I think they'll address the rumor. I don't know if they... Because my feeling on it is they'll address the rumor and they will either announce something, but I don't think it's coming out this year. I think it'll be early next year after Christmas. because I feel like if that were to happen, their game sales would fall if they tried to announce it, because people would be alienated before the holidays and be like, well, why would I buy a new PS4 game if this thing's coming out and I don't have this?
They don't. I really
Or they could,
so.
I mean, blow our minds with what their announcement is.
Yeah, I mean, it could be the opposite
it's hard
direction.
to
Yeah,
say.
you really don't know, but there's going to be some sort of mention of it, whether it's official, unofficial leaks, whatever it may be. But I hope Sony comes in, kind of like you're saying, instead of doing the behind the closed doors, like, hey, did you hear this? Sony goes up on stage and says, yes, we know you know about this. This is what it is. This is what it isn't. Here's the deal. Like, be transparent with us, because I think that's why they did so well with the PS4 launches. They were transparent with gamers and said, hey, we're about video games. You know those games that your system plays? Yeah, we got those. We don't fucking worry about TVs and shit. Like, we're not a home entertainment company.
Big difference between those two companies for the last 5 E3s, I think. It's been when they go up there, what they're approaching.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think there's lots of good stuff to think about. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, what do you think of the PS 4.5, if it's truly that? Like,
or just Sony's path in general.
Yeah.
I find it hard to hate them because they are one of my favorite companies, and they always have been. But I have been let down, and I think there's certain things you look at, like the PSP Go, the PS Vita, anything handheld really, even the Move and things like that.
Well, the Move's coming back.
The Move's coming back now with a very smart marketing.
GameStop raised the price by $10 when they announced PSVR.
But they always have their ebbs and flows. The only thing that remains consistent in that entire company is PlayStation. So hopefully they can pull it out. I have a lot of faith in this.
Yeah, and I think not to keep this going, but I think VR will be the big thing at E3. Maybe not, like I said, I think they'll touch on the rumors, but I think VR is, because it's coming out later this year.
That might be the big thing.
That'll be the big headliner.
Certain exclusives and stuff like that, but yeah.
So.
Alright guys, well thanks for watching our chat about Sony's State of the Union. Hopefully you learned something, or at least enjoyed the banter.
Yeah.
Please drop a comment below, drop a like if you like the video, etc, etc.
If you want to see our other State of the Unions, we'll have links down in the description, and there'll be a little note coming across that you can click on to go see the Microsoft and Nintendo as well. But thanks for watching, guys.
And as
always, welcome to the second level. Bye. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to us when you do watch your videos. We are just 3 guys in a basement, literally filming, making video game commentary videos, whatever you want to call these, and we have a lot of fun, so we really do appreciate it. If you guys want to see more, hit subscribe down below, thumbs up this video, and just tell us what you think about us. If good or bad, we'll take any sort of feedback.